Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua and I'm here today to do a collective haul and review of 5 Neutrals line collection candles from Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company. But first, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at touchthefire.twice.com and follow me over on Instagram, also at touchthefire.twice. But for now, let's dig into this haul and review. So these are 5 candles from the Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company Neutrals collection, which has been around for 2, maybe closer to 3 years now. I find it interesting because it's a bit hit or miss, but there have been some good hits in there, and it's just a space where they can really throw anything that doesn't fit in a very branded collection and just use the really name of the notes with a very simple design to promote the candle. And I kind of appreciate that, because then it's not just about, oh, I love the name or I love the packaging. It's, the packaging is nice, but no one purchases it for the most part for that purpose, versus some of the other candles that are cutesy or have fancy lids you might purchase, just because you like how it looks, versus this Neutrals collection, which, I think everyone knows what they look like. It really is just focusing on the fragrance itself. Now, sometimes they will have fragrances in here that also appear in other collections, so it's not to say that these are elevated or, more fine fragrance, anything like that, but they just happen to be notes or fragrances, blends that may not always fit in other places, and sometimes it's really interesting stuff. So these are 5 candles, both from, I'd say, 2 seasons really. So this is a collective haul. So a few of these were more so the, let's call it midwinter Neutrals collection, and then 3 of them are the, I want to say, early spring Neutrals collection. So we'll start with 2 of the oldest. So first up is Balsam and Bergamot. Now this was that sort of midwinter collection, I don't know, was it December these were out maybe, into January, where these had this metallic sheen to their labels. It doesn't show up on camera as well as it does in person. It's nice and a bit more subdued in person. This one is Balsam and Bergamot. Notes of balsam branches, crisp air, and zesty bergamot. My only one thing with these is I do wish that they would give us more, because these obviously have 6, 7, 10 notes to them. So great, put 2 as the primary name, put 3 of them as primary notes, but think of your Lofco, where the name of the candle may be 1 or 2 of these notes. There might be 3 fragrances that are the primary notes, and then you'll have a breakdown of top, middle, bottom notes, anywhere from 8 to 12 scent notes. And I'd love to get a little bit more of what's in here, so you can really look at these from the perspective of a fine fragrance, so that you can then learn about it, understand what you like, what you don't like, and then apply that to other fragrances that you're exploring. So getting my nose on this one though, you see this one's burned about halfway down. Balsam and Bergamot. Expecting this to be, heavy on the balsam, giving some of that outdoor whoosh tree fragrance that we're used to with those really sappy, bright, nearly mentholated balsams that we get from, think of your fresh balsam candle throughout the holidays. And bergamot being a zippy, airy, bright, lime adjacent citrus. And it gives you more of the bergamot than the balsam, I would say. This leans very fresh. It doesn't really give me that much, winter or balsam. Now, balsam can be year-round. I love the idea of balsam potentially being year-round when it's pulled out of a blend that would make it seem more winter, cooling, or holiday-like. But this one, there's some of that balsamic aspect you get to the balsam, but there's much, much more on, they say crisp air. Okay, well, so we're getting ozone on this, or really what are we getting within that air note? Perhaps some other light green notes, something powdery, which bergamot typically is not powdery, but perhaps some sort of eucalyptus or some sort of herb, something in there that brings a heavy hit of a borderline soapy powderiness, I would even say. So midwinter, when I wanted, this was right after probably the holidays, when I wanted something that was kind of clean and refreshing, but not a spring, zesty, bright candle. This was a good transition in that sense, because it was one step in that direction, but it still has a heaviness to it. I don't love it, frankly. It really was just a reaction to getting away from the holidays. So you do get some of that air. Think of, your oceanside, some of your ocean driftwoods, your aquatic fragrances or ocean fragrances that have some of that air aspect to it, that powdery, zippy, astringent, again, I would say eucalyptus, some herbs, green powdery notes, and that soapiness as well. And the bergamot certainly is there. There is that citrus, but that's really the only citrus I get from this. And it does lean more toward the airy brightness versus zesty citrus that you sometimes would expect when you see something like bergamot. As they say, zesty bergamot. I don't get the zest. It's nice. Would not repurchase it, but I appreciated it for what it was when it was. Then similar, same collection. So we're still in, this neutral was when they were doing, I think it was all gray neutrals just with the colored labels when this one dropped in that late winter. And this is Palo Santo and Sage. Notes of clary sage, Palo Santo, and ambered woods. One thing I will say, it's a bit of a misnomer here that they're saying Palo Santo and Sage. As the name, it should say clary sage because your typical sage is very different than your clary sage. Your clary sage is going to be really adjacent to sort of a lavender flower. It's more of a somewhat soft, powdery, maybe a bit of green, astringency, freshness, floral versus that musky, green, warm, furry feeling herbal that we get from sage, which is very robust and deep and, immediately, screams kind of like autumn, winter, Thanksgiving, if you're in the States, as far as the types of places that you're going to smell and taste sage. Clary sage is much more of a light, fresh, uplifting, again, think of an herbal version of a soft lavender flower is more so what you're going to get from clary sage than that musky depth of your velvety sage. So that's the one thing there. And Palo Santo is that ceremonial wood that is going to be fresh, clean, sometimes have a bit of almost like a lemon aspect to it. So it is not as heavy or dark or resinous as, think of your cedar woods, let alone something like an oak or guaiac wood or oud where you're getting deep into the resins. It is much lighter, cleaner, fresher when it comes to woods. So interesting that you are getting a light, fresh wood with that sort of light, fresh herbal from the clary sage. And then of course, ambered woods, that could mean a million things. So we're expecting some woods though. I think really Palo Santo is the only wood that I probably detected in this, but amber is going to be a mixture of labdanum or benzoin or some tonka, a bit of vanilla to give you that rich, warm, borderline animalic, maybe almost towards musky, but sweet, honeyed, leathery aspect that we get from amber fragrances, of which there are millions of blends of ambers. But getting my nose on it, I actually like this one better. This one's nice. Sometimes though, when I put my nose in it, when I am going to say what I want to burn today, it's so fresh from the Palo Santo that it almost feels, funnily enough, like it reminds me of when I was a kid, I had a bunch of different, animals and pets when I was a kid. And at one point I had hamsters, and you're not supposed to use cedar shavings. You didn't know it in the 90s, but cedar shavings for most hamsters actually are toxic because the cedar is so, there's something in the actual, essential oil of the wood that is toxic to them, poor things. But that sort of stereotypical scent of, what are, shavings for, whether it's hamsters or other small pets that you may have kept as a kid or as an adult, that sort of cedar shavings or just fresh wood shavings that oftentimes you would use from, the pet store. This leans towards that. So it's almost like, it's not cedar, it's just a really freshly, like chipped away curled wood with certainly a heavy hit of a bit of that floral, mildly powdery, somewhat astringent of that warming light clary sage. Ambered woods, there is certainly a depth to this. And amber, I do see amber in here. Again, hard to pick out exactly, what notes build this amber as it's, influenced by the initial ambergris. It is warm, a bit of a powder, a thickness, a heaviness, a, not quite honey-like, but certainly that kind of resinous when you think of things like, frankincense or not quite incense, but to a frankincense where it is that really dried resinous aspect that comes through in ambers. But I suppose if it's the Palo Santo, it's bringing that really fresh, bright wood aspect to it. Again, based on name and the bit I know about what Palo Santo smells like. It's a little bit heavy on that. I feel like this could benefit from some other note in here to make it a little bit more balanced. Again, I only burned this one once or twice. I didn't love it, but I wanted to lean into a fresher wood getting into springtime. But I think I need to find a different Palo Santo fragrance. If anyone loves or knows any Palo Santo fragrances, doesn't have to be from Bath & Body Works. I would love to hear of other brands where there's a really great Palo Santo. Do let me know. I want to say, I think that Lafco's Retreat, which I love, I'm pretty sure that matcha and I think Palo Santo is a primary note in that. So maybe I just need to get another one of those. We actually reviewed here their Restorative Retreat collection last spring, which had Retreat in it. And that is such a beautiful blend. So maybe I answered my own question, but I'd love to hear about more. Then we get into the, let's say, late winter, early spring trio I've got here from the Neutrals line. This is when they're back into the colored vessels with the traditional, let's say, off-gray cream labels. This one, a returning favorite, and that is pink lavender and espresso. Notes of rich pink lavender, caramel espresso beans, and smooth vanilla. I think everyone knows and many love this fragrance. It really is very, very similar to the lavender marshmallow. It's so much a sister scent to that. It's the same warm, soft lavender and frankly smooth vanilla with the addition of, again, caramel. Hard to say that I don't really get so much caramel in here. Maybe a bit of a burnt sugar, which is caramel, but there is that espresso, whereas number 33, the lemon and espresso mystery drop, which if you haven't seen that review, you can check that here for number 33, and number 42, the leather and cinnamon and lemon and espresso. That was supposed to have a decent amount of espresso in it, and I didn't really get almost any, versus this has espresso, and it's not a primary major note, but it's enough that if you didn't know it was there, you might be able to smell it. And if you're looking for it, you definitely can pick it out, and it is not just the mind, playing tricks on you, or the power of influence from the marketing and the labeling. There really truly is a bit of a coffee behind there. Coffee and lavender, I've had lavender espressos before. In fact, I think right now actually Starbucks has a lavender collection both for matcha and for lattes. So really, this is kind of on trend, or they were right ahead of the trend in some ways at Bath & Body Works. And it's just a really, really nice, soothing, borderline gourmand without going fully foodie. So really, really enjoy that one. Then we go to two that I actually have not yet burned. I may return one of them, and the other one I think I like a lot. First up is Cardamom and Vetiver. I'm a big fan of Cardamom and Vetiver, both as notes in fine fragrances. There's so much that can be done with them, and a lot of folks maybe don't know what they are or think they're turned off by cardamom because they know one version of cardamom versus the different ways that it really can be expressed in fine fragrance. However, notes on this one are warm cardamom, vetiver, and white amber. Now this one is nice. It actually is not too far off from the Palo, Santo, and Sage as far as that bright top note that leans kind of like a resinous wood. Perhaps do they both have amber, ambered woods and white amber? Maybe it's the amber, whatever blend they're using for amber could be similar. Cardamom is going to be potentially that kind of bright green. They say warm cardamom. There's a sort of a green expression of fresh cardamom seed pods, and then more of like an aged, darker black cardamom. That's gonna be a bit more earthy and dry, whereas warm cardamom, I don't know if that means it's the dried, the green or the black. I get a little bit more of like that brighter, fresher cardamom. Not quite minty, not quite musky, but invigorating and fresh. And then vetiver, of course, is the dried grass, vetiver grass, which is related to lemongrass. They harvest it with the roots, they dry it, and then the actual roots of the grass are what is used to distill the essential oil from. And it's a little bit, it can be, earthy, dirty, hay-like, still kind of green and grassy. Really a beautiful fragrance note that is in so many fragrances. But you do have that fresh, bright greenness from the cardamom, which does have a bit of, I don't want to say medicinal edge to it, but there is a little bit, if you were to chew on that, it has almost like a menthol aspect to it, that cooling aspect. And that is certainly present here. So definitely, there's that side of the cardamom. And the grassy warmth, I suppose, of that earthy vetiver that you get. And the white amber, again, ambered woods, white amber, all the variations of amber, same thing as, the sheer musks and the blonde musks and all that. Hard to say if that's really just the style or expression of amber, the blend they're using, or if it's just an adjective they're trying to call out within the amber. But there is certainly that, again, we're talking some labdanum or some benzoin, something a little bit dark, borderline leathery, woody, rich, opulent, warming is gonna, give you the amber. And there's enough amber fragrances out there that I think folks generally know what to expect when smelling an amber. This one I think I like better than the Palo Santo and Sage. I have not burned it yet. Just it's one of those ones where I just don't always know the right mood or moment that I am seeking this one. Like it almost seems like it would be more of a personal fragrance versus a candle that I want just burning in the home. But I should give it a shot because it is very fresh for being something that's a bit heavier. So that is nice. I'm happy that they're doing these things that lean a bit more towards a traditional fine fragrance or some of the luxury blends that we find out there. And the final one is blue verbena and lime. Notes on this one, sugared lime, zesty verbena, and garden thyme. So verbena is usually going to be very fresh, green, a bit lemony, a bit minty, almost towards like a lemongrass or mint. Spring-like, a lot of cleaners have verbena in them, a bit of a floral to it. Sugared lime. So they're telling us it's gonna be a little bit sweeter, which I didn't expect for this, and garden thyme. Of course, thyme is that herb that many of us use in our cooking, and it's going to be quite intense, similar to maybe like a rosemary, almost stringency of a lavender. It's very herbaceous, strong, intense. Then I actually did a review, if you wanna learn more about thyme, really in-depth on thyme. Kringle had a collection of supposedly single notes, not sure if they were truly single note blends, but there was a thyme candle, so you can check that out here, where I went really in depth into thyme and what does it smell like and how is it used and all that sort of thing. Won't go deeply into that here, but it is a really nice, unique herb that you don't always see in fragrance. But let's get my nose on this one. This one's very nice. This feels, it's sort of a warmer spring day, you know, sunny out right now when I'm filming this, and this feels like it could be appropriate. There is a sweetness to that lime. It's not just the zest. It is a bit sugared, not to the extent of, you know, cloying or beverage, but there is a bit of a sweetness added to the lime. That plays off very nicely with the verbena, which again leans a little bit lemony, kind of a mixture of herbs and lemon is what you're gonna get with verbena. It's, you know, it's just that leaf, but it really can be, you know, is it mint? Is it citrusy? Is it lemony? A little bit of all of the above, but it's really beautiful. And to me, it's very much a not only rejuvenating, invigorating fragrance, but it's also a cleansing fragrance. Like if you're cleaning, you know, light a verbena-based candle and it will, you know, open the windows, you get the fresh air in there, and it really is just the kind of epitome of a clean home for me. And garden thyme is gonna also really layer in that clean, fresh brightness because of the rosemary-like pungency and again, green aspects of the thyme. So it's funny, it's blue verbena and this, you know, powder blue, baby blue, sky blue vessel, but we're talking like green, you know, citrus herbal on here, but it's not too heavy. And there's a really, quite honestly, a heavy hit of that garden thyme, which makes it actually softens it a bit from being just the high, bright, zesty citrus and frankly, kind of zesty, well, yeah, as they say, zesty verbena. You know, this comes off a bit lemony from the verbena mixed with the citrus of the lime. And there's the most green comes from that garden thyme for me with a bit of a astringency. Think of your rosemary, not quite floral, but certainly the almost grassiness of the verbena playing with that intensity of the garden thyme. So this is quite nice. I had sniffed this a couple of times in the stores before I ended up purchasing it. And I was like, I don't know. And I was doing it through a mask still, but so sometimes you get a lot of it, but you miss some of the notes sometimes through there. Yeah, this is quite nice. I don't know that it's particularly, obviously, any one thing. I can see why it's in the neutrals collection because it would be almost hard to market this. I'm not sure we'd market it as unless it went into some of the laundry scents, you know, like the bright day, fresh t-shirt, sunshine vibes, whatever it might be. But I think the intensity of some of the herbal aspect, truly fresh green herbal aspect, and astringency almost to it would turn off some people. And I imagine, I'm interested to burn it because I think that garden thyme really may kick up a bit because I'm really getting a lot of it uncold here. But again, almost an aromatherapy blend more than anything is what this would bring us. Very uplifting, rejuvenating. So that is the blue verbena and lime. If you burned this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Love, hate, or in between. So that is my, I guess, in-depth sniff haul and review of a handful of the latest neutrals collection from Bath & Body Works by Candle Company. Let me know if you purchased these, love them, hate them, in between. Would love to hear your thoughts on them. Any that I haven't purchased here that you think are must-haves that I should check out if I have not already. Would love to hear it. Until next time, take care.